My son and his wife left their adopted 8-year-old daughter and took their bio son on a $20,000 cruise. I was standing in my garage. That's where this story starts. Not in a courtroom, not in a hospital room, not even in my own living room where the worst of it happened. It started in my garage on a Tuesday morning in October. I was looking for a hammer. I had this old wooden toolbox my father gave me when I turned 18. It was falling apart, but I could not throw it away. I was going to fix a loose board on the back porch. My granddaughter Lily was coming over that afternoon, and she liked to run around back there. She liked to chase the squirrels. She called them tiny dogs. I always thought that was funny. Tiny dogs. She was 8 years old. She had these big brown eyes that looked at you like you were the only person in the world. She was adopted. My son Mark and his wife Sarah brought her home from Guatemala when she was 6 months old. I remember holding her for the first time. She was so small. She fit in the curve of my arm like she was always meant to be there. I remember looking at Mark and thinking, you did something right. You saved a life. You gave a child a home. I was so proud of him that day. I found the hammer under some old paint cans. I remember looking at my hands. They were not young hands anymore. The veins were thick and blue. The skin was thin and papery. I was 72 years old. I had worked those hands raw for 45 years. I was a foreman at a steel fabrication plant. I built things. I provided things. I never complained. My wife Ellen used to say I had hands that could fix anything and a heart that could not fix a thing. She was right about that. She was right about a lot of things. Ellen passed away 3 years before this story. Cancer. Quick and brutal and merciless. She was 68. We were married for 44 years. I still sleep on my side of the bed. I still reach for her in the middle of the night. I still smell her perfume on her old bathrobe hanging behind the bathroom door. I never moved it. I never will. Mark was our only son. We had 2 daughters too, Emily and Rachel. They lived in different states with their own families. They called every Sunday. They sent pictures of the kids. They were good girls. They loved their father. But Mark was the baby. Mark was the one who stayed close. Mark was the one who bought a house 10 minutes from mine after he got married. I thought that meant something. I thought it meant he wanted to be near me. I thought it meant family mattered to him the way it mattered to me. I was wrong. I was so wrong about everything. Sarah was a real estate agent. She was pretty and polished and always wore white. White blouses, white pants, white sneakers that never had a speck of dirt on them. She had this way of smiling that made you feel like you were the most important person in the world. She hugged me when Ellen died. She cried. She said, "Mark is so lucky to have you as a father. She said, you are our rock. She said, we could not do this without you." I believed every word. I needed to believe them. I was drowning in grief, and Sarah held out her hand, and I grabbed it. I grabbed it hard. I thought she was saving me. But she was not saving me. She was measuring me. She was counting my assets. She was waiting for me to fall apart so she could pick up the pieces and sell them. The first red flag was the mortgage. I did not notice it at the time, but looking back, it was the first crack in the wall. Mark and Sarah bought a big house, 4 bedrooms, a pool, a 3-car garage. They could not afford it. I knew their combined income. I knew their debts. I knew Sarah liked nice things. I knew Mark liked making her happy. He came to me one night. We were sitting on my porch drinking beer. He looked tired. He had that tightness in his jaw that he always got when he was stressed about money. He asked if I could co-sign on a refinance. He said the interest rate was good. He said it would save the money. He said he would pay me back. He said he would never ask for anything again. I signed the papers. I did not even read them. He was my son. He was my only son. I trusted him with everything. The second red flag was the vacations. They started taking trips, big trips, Europe, Hawaii, Disney World. They took Lily everywhere. They took her to Paris. They took her to see the Eiffel Tower. I watched the videos on Facebook.
Lily was so happy. She was laughing and spinning and holding Mark's hand. I thought, look at that little girl. She has everything. She has a family that loves her. She has a world that opened up for her. I was happy for her. I was happy for them. I felt like my legacy was secure. I had raised a son who was a good father. I had done my job. The third red flag was when Lily started calling me Pops. That happened when she was 5. She ran up to me at a family barbecue and wrapped her arms around my legs and said, "Pops, can you push me on the swing?" I looked down at her and my heart just cracked open. I pushed her on the swing for an hour. I pushed her until my shoulders hurt. I pushed her until the sun went down. I remember Ellen watching from the porch. She was sick already, but she was smiling. She was so happy to see me happy. She said, "That little girl is your whole heart now." I said, "She sure is." I never said that to Mark. I never said, "You know what, son? Your daughter is my whole heart." I should have said it. Maybe if I had said it, things would be different. Maybe he would have understood how much she meant to me. Maybe he would have thought twice before he did what he did. The boy came in the spring. They had been trying for years. Sarah had fertility issues. They had given up. They had accepted that Lily was their only child. Then Sarah got pregnant. It was a miracle. Mark called me crying. He could not even get the words out. He said, "Dad, she is pregnant."
She is really pregnant. I cried too. I cried in my truck in the driveway. I thanked God. I thanked Ellen. I thought she was watching from wherever she was, and she was smiling down on them. The baby was a boy. They named him Marcus. Marcus James. They called him MJ. He was beautiful. He had Mark's blue eyes and Sarah's dark hair. He was perfect. I held him in the hospital and I felt the weight of history. I felt the weight of my father and his father before him. This was my grandson. This was the continuation of my line. I loved him immediately. I loved him fiercely. I did not know that love would be weaponized against me. I did not know that love would be the thing that broke me. After MJ was born, things changed. Slowly at first, almost imperceptibly. Sarah stopped bringing Lily over as often. There was always a reason. Lily had a cold. Lily was tired. Lily was acting out and needed to stay home. I accepted these reasons. I did not question them. I was a grandfather. I was not supposed to interfere. Mark stopped coming by alone. Every visit was a production. I had to schedule it. I had to clear my calendar. I had to make sure my house was spotless. Sarah had this thing about cleanliness. She would run her finger along the mantel and look at the dust. She would wrinkle her nose. She would say, "Oh, Mark, did you see that?" She did it in front of me. She did it to make me feel small. I started cleaning my house like I was preparing for an inspection. I scrubbed the floors.
I washed the windows. I organized the pantry. I wanted to be worthy of them. I wanted to be worthy of my grandchildren. The first real sign of something wrong was the money. I noticed it because I am old, and I pay attention to things that matter. Mark stopped calling me just to talk. He only called when he needed something. A cosign on a car loan, a down payment for a new roof, money for MJ's private school tuition. I gave it all. I gave it freely. I never kept track. I never asked for receipts. I would write checks and hand them over and say, "Don't worry about it." I thought I was helping them. I thought I was being a good father. I did not realize I was being a good bank. I was a machine that dispensed cash, and they were pressing the buttons. The second real sign was the distance. Lily started to pull away. Not intentionally. She was a child. She did not understand what was happening, but I noticed. She stopped hugging me the same way. She stopped running to me when I walked in the door. She would say, "Hi, Pops," and then go back to her tablet. She was 8. 8-year-olds are supposed to be wild and open and desperate for attention, but Lily was quiet. Lily was reserved. Lily was watching. She was watching the way Sarah looked at her. She was watching the way Mark looked past her. She was watching the way MJ got all the hugs and all the kisses and all the bedtime stories. I saw it too. I saw the favoritism. I saw the way Sarah's face lit up when MJ walked into the room. I saw the way her face went flat when Lily asked a question. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself I was projecting my own fears. I told myself they were good parents. They were good people. They were my family. Then came the summer of the cruise. That was the thing. That was the moment the world cracked open. and everything I believed fell into a hole. Mark called me on a Friday afternoon. I was watching the news. I remember the story was about wildfires out west. I remember thinking how sad it was. All those people losing their homes. I had no idea I was about to lose mine. Not my physical house. My house was still standing. But my soul, my peace, my understanding of who I was and what I meant to my family. That was the thing that burned. Mark said, "Dad, we are going on a cruise." I said, "That sounds nice. Where are you going?" He said, "The Caribbean." 10 days. He said it was a celebration, their 10th anniversary. I said, "I am so happy for you. You deserve it. You and Sarah work so hard. You deserve a break." He said, "Thanks, Dad." He said, "We are bringing MJ." I said, "Of course you are." He said, "Lily is going to stay with a friend." I said, "What friend?" He said, "A girl from her school." He said, "They are having a great time. They are so excited." I said, "Okay." I said, "That sounds nice." I did not think anything of it. I did not think anything was wrong. I just assumed it was normal. Parents take their younger child on a trip. The older child stays with a friend. It happens. It is normal, but the nagging feeling started that night. I could not sleep. I kept thinking about Lily. I kept thinking about her face, her brown eyes, the way she looked at me like I was the only person in the world. I did not like the idea of her staying with a friend for 10 days. I did not like the idea of her being separated from her family for that long. But I told myself I was being an old man. I told myself I was worrying about nothing. The next week I called Mark. I asked about the friend. I asked for the phone number. I said, "I just want to check in." I said, "I want to make sure Lily is okay." He said, "She is fine, Dad." He said, "Stop worrying." He said, "Everything is under control." But his voice was different. His voice was tight. His voice was defensive. He was hiding something. I could feel it. I had raised him. I knew every tone in his voice. I knew when he was lying. I knew when he was covering something up. I said, "Mark, if you need anything, you call me." I said, "I can take Lily." I said, "I have time." I said, "I have a spare room." He said, "Thanks, Dad, but she is fine." He said, "We already made arrangements." He said, "It is too late to change." I let it go. I should not have let it go. I should have pushed harder. I should have driven to his house and demanded to see her. But I did not. I was afraid. I was afraid of offending them. I was afraid of pushing them away. I was afraid of losing them. I did not know I was going to lose them anyway. I did not know I was going to lose everything. They left on a Saturday. I knew because I saw the pictures on Facebook. Mark posted a photo of the ship. He posted a photo of the ocean. He posted a photo of MJ in a tiny life jacket. He looked so happy. They all looked so happy. Sarah was wearing a white sundress and sunglasses. She was smiling. Mark had his arm around her. They looked like a perfect family. The perfect American family. 2 parents, 1 perfect biological son, 1 adopted daughter who was not in the picture because she was staying with a friend. I looked at that photo and my stomach dropped. I did not know why. I just felt something was wrong. I felt it in my bones. I felt it in the way my hands started shaking. I called Mark's phone. It went straight to voicemail. I called Sarah's phone. Same thing. They were at sea. They were unreachable. I was alone with my dread. I went to Lily's school. I did not even know why I was going. I just needed to see her. I needed to see her face. I needed to know she was okay. I walked into the office and I asked for Lily. The secretary looked at me strangely. She said Lily has been absent for 2 weeks. I said, "What do you mean, absent?" She said the parents withdrew her. She said they said she was going to be out of the country for a while. I said, "What country?" She said she did not know. She said it was a private matter. I stood there in that office with my heart pounding. I could not breathe. I could not think. I said, "Where is she?" I said, "Where is my granddaughter?" The secretary said, "I am sorry, sir. I do not have more information." I drove to Mark's house. The house was empty. The curtains were drawn. The lawn was overgrown. I walked around the back and looked through the kitchen window. The counters were bare. The refrigerator was off. I could see a few empty boxes in the corner. It looked like they had moved. It looked like they had left and taken everything. Everything but my granddaughter. I spent the next 3 days making phone calls. I called Emily. I called Rachel. I called every relative. I called every friend. No one knew where Lily was. No one had heard from Mark or Sarah. They were ghosts. They had vanished. I was losing my mind. I was not sleeping. I was not eating. I was just sitting in my house, staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring, waiting for some explanation, waiting for someone to tell me I was crazy, that I had misunderstood, that Lily was fine, that she was with a friend, that she was safe. The phone did not ring. I called the police. They said it was a family matter. They said the parents had legal custody. They said there was nothing they could do. I said she is a child. She is 8 years old. She is alone. They said, we understand your concern, sir, but you are not the legal guardian. I said, I am her grandfather. They said, we understand. There is nothing we can do. The cruise was 10 days. They were gone for 11. I know because I counted every hour. I sat in my truck outside the airport on the day they were supposed to return. I watched the arrivals board. I watched the families reunite. I watched the hugs and the tears and the joy. I felt none of it. I felt this cold, hollow ache in my chest. I felt like I was already dead. I saw them come out of the terminal, Mark and Sarah and MJ. They were tan. They were relaxed. They were laughing. MJ was wearing a little captain hat. He was holding Sarah's hand. They looked like a postcard. They looked like a dream. They did not see me. They walked to their car and loaded their bags and drove away. I followed them. I followed them to their house. I watched them pull into the driveway. I parked across the street. I sat there for a long time. I watched the lights turn on. I watched them move through the rooms. I watched Sarah carry MJ to his bedroom. I watched Mark open the garage door and start unpacking. I watched it all. And I waited. I did not go to the door that night. I was too angry. I was too hurt. I was too afraid of what I might do. I went home, and I sat in my recliner, and I stared at the wall. I thought about Ellen. I thought about what she would say. She would say, you need to talk to him. You need to sit him down. You need to look him in the eye and ask him where your granddaughter is. I knew she was right. I knew I had to do it. But I was scared. I was terrified of what I would learn. I was terrified of the truth. The next day, I called Mark.
I told him we needed to talk. I said it was important. He said, okay, Dad. He said, come over this afternoon. He said, Sarah is going to be out with MJ. We can have some time alone. I drove over. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. I felt like I was walking to my own execution. I knocked on the door. Mark opened it. He looked at me. He knew why I was there. He knew I had figured it out. He knew I had seen the empty house and the empty school and the empty room. He knew. Dad, come in. I walked into his house. It was spotless. It looked like a showroom. White walls, white furniture, white everything. I hated it. I hated all of it. I sat down on his white couch. He sat across from me. He looked at his hands. Dad, I know what you were going to ask. I said, where is Lily? He did not answer. He just sat there. He looked at his hands. He looked at the floor. He looked anywhere but at me. I said, where is my granddaughter? He said, she is with a family. He said, she is with a family that can take care of her. I said, what the hell does that mean? He said, Dad, we could not handle her. He said she was too much.
He said she had behavioral issues. He said she was acting out. He said she was a danger to MJ. He said we had to make a choice. He said we chose our son. I said she is 8 years old. I said she is a child. You adopted her. You brought her into this family. You promised to love her and protect her and raise her. You made a promise.
He said, "Dad, we did not know how hard it would be." He said, "We did not know she would be so difficult." He said the adoption agency told us she was healthy. They told us she was normal, but she was not normal. She had outbursts. She had tantrums. She would not listen. She would not follow directions. She was disrupting our family. She was disrupting MJ's development. We had to make a decision. I said, "You did not make a decision. You made an abandonment. You threw her away. You threw her away like she was a piece of garbage, like she was a broken toy, like she was nothing." He said, "Dad, that is not fair." I said, "Do not tell me what is fair." I said, "I am your father. I raised you. I sacrificed for you. I gave you everything. I gave you money. I gave you time. I gave you love. I gave you my whole life. And you did this? You did this to a child? You did this to my granddaughter?" He started crying. He cried like a boy. He put his head in his hands and he sobbed. I watched him. I did not feel sorry for him. I felt nothing. I felt dead inside. He said, "Dad, I did not know what else to do." He said Sarah was threatening to leave me. He said she said it was me or Lily. She said she could not handle the stress. She said MJ needed a stable home. She said Lily was destroying our marriage. He said I could not lose Sarah. I could not lose MJ. I had to make a choice. I chose my family. I said Lily was your family. She was your daughter. She was my granddaughter. She was everything.
He said, "Dad, I am so sorry." He said, "I made a terrible mistake." He said, "I do not know how to fix it." I said, "Where is she?" I said, "Tell me where she is." He said, "She is with a foster family." He said he did not know where exactly. He said Sarah handled everything. He said Sarah found a family through a private agency. He said they signed papers. He said they gave up their parental rights. You gave up your rights. You gave up your daughter. You gave up your soul. He said, "Dad, please." He said, "Please do not hate me." He said, "I am still your son." I stood up. I walked to the door. I looked back at him. I looked at my son, my beautiful son, my only son, the boy I taught to throw a baseball, the boy I held in my arms when he was born, the boy I loved with my whole heart. I looked at him, and I did not recognize him. He was a stranger. He was a monster. He was someone I did not know. I said, "I do not hate you." I said, "I do not feel anything for you." I said, "You are dead to me." I said, "You and your wife and your son are dead to me." I said, "You made your choice. Now you live with it." I walked out the door. I drove home. I sat in my truck for an hour. I could not move. I could not breathe. I could not think. I just sat there in the dark with my hands on the steering wheel. I thought about Lily. I thought about the way she laughed when I pushed her on the swing. I thought about the way she said "Pops." I thought about the way she fit in my arms.
I thought about all the Christmases and all the birthdays and all the afternoons we spent together. I thought about how I would never see her again. I thought about how she was out there somewhere, alone and scared and confused. I thought about how she would never know how much I loved her. The next few months were a blur. I hired a lawyer. I spent every penny I had. I sold my truck. I sold my tools. I sold everything I could sell. I tried to find her. I tried to find my granddaughter. I filed petitions, I made calls, I begged, I pleaded, I did everything a grandfather could do. But it did not matter. The system is broken. The system does not care about grandparents. The system cares about parents. The parents had rights. The parents had made a decision. The parents had signed papers. The parents had washed their hands of her. There was nothing I could do. I was powerless. I was a 72-year-old man with a broken heart and empty bank account. I had nothing left.
I found out where she was 6 months later. A private investigator I hired tracked her down. She was in a foster home in a state 1,000 miles away. I drove there. I drove 3 days. I did not stop. I just drove. I did not eat. I did not sleep. I just drove and thought about her. I thought about her face. I thought about her eyes. I thought about the way she used to hold my hand when we walked through the park. I was going to save her. I was going to bring her home. I was going to be her grandfather.
I was going to be her father. I was going to be everything she needed. I got to the foster home. It was a small house. The lawn was overgrown. The porch was cracked. The paint was peeling. It looked like a place where dreams went to die. I knocked on the door. A woman answered. She was tired. She had deep circles under her eyes. She looked like she had not slept in years. She said yes. I said, I am Lily's grandfather. I said, I have been looking for her. I said, I need to see her. She looked at me. She looked at me with suspicion. She looked at me with sadness. She said, I am sorry, sir. She said, she is not here. I said, what do you mean? She said she was moved. She said a month ago. She said the state found a permanent placement. She said they do not tell us where they go. She said it is for the child's safety. I said she is my granddaughter. I said I have rights. She said, sir, I am sorry. She do not have rights. The parents terminated their rights. She said you have no legal claim. She said there is nothing you can do. I fell to my knees. I just collapsed. I fell to my knees on that woman's porch and I cried. I cried like a child. I cried like I had not cried since Ellen died. I cried for Lily. I cried for myself. I cried for all the years I wasted thinking I had a family. I cried for all the love I gave that was never returned. I cried until I had nothing left. I do not know where Lily is now. I do not know if she is happy. I do not know if she is safe.
I do not know if she thinks about me. I hope she does. I hope she remembers me. I hope she remembers the swings and the squirrels and the way I held her hand. I hope she remembers that someone loved her. I hope she remembers that someone fought for her. I hope she remembers that I never gave up on her, even when everyone else did, even when her parents threw her away, even when the system failed her. I never gave up. I went back home. I went back to my empty house. I went back to my recliner and my silence and my memories. Mark called me a few times. I did not answer. He sent letters. I burned them. Sarah sent a card. I tore it up. I do not want to see them. I do not want to hear from them. I do not want to know anything about them. They are dead to me. They made their choice. They chose their son. They chose their cruise. They chose their comfortable life without the inconvenience of a child who was different. I hope they are happy. I hope MJ is happy. I hope they have everything they ever wanted. But I will never be part of it. I will never be part of their story again. I am a ghost to them, and they are ghosts to me. I spend my days now at the hardware store. I walk the aisles. I look at the tools. I remember the things I built. I built a life. I built a family. I built a legacy. And I watched it all burn. I have nothing left. I have no one left. I am an old man in an empty house with a heart full of grief and a head full of memories that cut like broken glass. I sit on my porch every evening and watch the sun go down. I think about Ellen. I think about what she would say. She would say you did the right thing. She would say you loved her. She would say love is all that matters. I hope she is right. I hope love matters, because it is all I have left. It is the only thing they could not take from me. They took my money, they took my trust, they took my granddaughter, but they could not take my love. I still love her. I will always love her. She is my Lily. She is my heart. She is my everything. I do not know if I will ever see her again. I do not know if she will ever know how much I fought for her. I do not know if it matters. I just know I did everything I could. I gave everything I had. I sacrificed everything. And I would do it again. I would do it 1,000 times. She was worth it. She is worth it. She was never the problem. She was never a burden. She was never too much. She was a child. She was an innocent. She was a gift. And they threw her away. They threw her away like she was nothing. But she was not nothing. She was everything. She was my granddaughter. She was my legacy. She was my heart. I am 74 now. My hands shake when I hold a cup of coffee. My knees ache when I walk to the mailbox. I am tired. I am so tired. But I cannot rest. I cannot stop hoping. I cannot stop praying. I hope she is okay. I hope she has found a family that loves her. I hope she has found a home. I hope she has found peace.
I hope she has found joy. I hope she has found everything she deserves. I hope she knows she was loved. I hope she knows she was wanted. I hope she knows she was my whole world. The phone never rings. The house never fills with laughter. The porch is always quiet. I sit alone with my memories and my grief. I sit alone with the weight of what happened. I sit alone with the knowledge that my son destroyed me. He did not do it with violence. He did not do it with cruelty. He did it with indifference. He did it with selfishness. He did it with a smile and a lie and a cruise ticket. He did it by choosing the easy path over the right one. He did it by choosing his wife over his daughter. He did it by choosing his comfort over his soul. I do not forgive him. I do not think I ever will. I do not forgive Sarah. I do not think I ever can. I know that is not what a good Christian would say. I know that is not what a father should say. But I am not a good Christian. I am not a good father. I am just an old man with a broken heart. I am just an old man who loved too much and trusted too easily. I am just an old man who lost everything. Some nights I dream about her. I dream about the swings. I dream about the tiny dogs. I dream about her laugh. I wake up reaching for her. I wake up calling her name. I wake up in a cold sweat with tears on my face. I wake up alone. I wake up in the dark. I wake up in the silence. I wake up knowing she is out there somewhere, and I cannot reach her.
I cannot save her. I cannot hold her. I cannot tell her I love her. I cannot tell her I am sorry. I am sorry I was not enough. I am sorry I could not protect her. I am sorry I did not see it coming. I am sorry I let her down. This is my story. This is the story of how my family died. Not all at once, not with a bang, but with a quiet decision. A decision made over dinner. A decision made in the name of convenience. A decision made by people who forgot what love means. I will carry this story to my grave. I will carry this pain to my last breath. I will carry this love that has no place to go. I will carry it until I cannot carry anymore. And then I will let it go. I will let it go into the dark. I will let it go into the silence. I will let it go into whatever comes next. I hope there is a place after this. I hope there is a place where I can see her again. I hope there is a place where I can hold her and tell her everything I never got to say.
I hope there is a place where families are whole and love is real and no one ever leaves. I hope there is a place where children are never thrown away. I hope there is a place where grandfathers get to keep their grandchildren. I hope there is a place where the good guys win and the bad guys lose. And justice is not just a word. I hope there is a place where Lily is waiting for me. I hope she is waiting with her brown eyes and her beautiful smile. I hope she is waiting with open arms. I hope she remembers me. I hope she loves me.
I hope she knows I loved her. I hope she knows I always loved her. I hope she knows I never stopped loving her. I hope she knows I am still loving her. I am still loving her right now. I am still loving her with every broken piece of my heart. I am still loving her. I will always love her. She is my Lily. She is my granddaughter. She is my everything. And I am nothing without her.